Welcome back to the Weekly Manga Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all of your favorite ongoing Japanese manga. This week, yet again, we have more Chapter 1 goodness with two brand new series premiering, and they're both pretty fantastic by my measure. First is Odoru Sennen Kaizoku, or Dancing Thousand-Year Family, and then after that we have Galaxias, a new shonen adventure series from Kodansha. Last up, we're going to finish off with a quick look at Makina Mama's Unbecoming daily life. All that manga news and more coming right up. Hello again, my name is Bruce. I am the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel, and this week I am joined again by the Manga Plus reader to my Viz reader, Gautam.
Hello, hello.
All right. Normally when we're planning this podcast, I have a little bit of an idea, maybe before going into the week, what's going to be a good chapter. I was pleasantly surprised this week to have two things dropped in me out of nowhere, essentially. I think Galaxias was maybe a little announced, but two really good chapter ones by my feelings. Let's talk about the first one. The first one we were talking about here is a series that is called Odoru Sennen Kaizoku, which is Dancing Thousand-Year Family. This is by author Sho Kasugai. Gautam, how did you feel about this first one? This is I'll give a quick little synopsis. This is immortals, kind of zany hijinks, all living in Japan by the time we get to the end. Chapter 1 kind of sets all that up. But how did you feel about Dancing Thousand-Year Family?
It was a ton of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. It started out a little sort of like generic in the first maybe like 3 pages. I was
page,
like, yeah, like the first like 2 or 3 pages, I was like, oh, okay, I know what this is. And then it kind of pretty quickly gets away from that. And it really quickly gets away from that. And then it sprints away from normality pretty quick. It becomes, I think, really fun. So,
yeah, it was a good time. And I love that, our relatable shonen protagonist, who's like the normal guy in the wacky situation, is also kind of weird. He's not even that normal.
Yeah, I like. We've talked about the idea of sort of like the straight man and the funny man, and it's always a good idea to give your straight man a quirk that can then reverse the situation into he is not the straight man, he is now the goofy man. All sort of good straight man, goofy man pairs, I think, do this. Let's talk about the chapter a little bit, because I did like this a lot. It basically starts with our main character getting beat up, and I thought that I grabbed a panel of it, but maybe not. Did I get out of order? Oh well. Main character's kind of getting beat up. He seems very nonchalant about it. He's like, make sure to tell the manager or something like that. Then we have his younger brother pulls up in a luxury car and is like, get in the van right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, who's this kid? It's like, he's my little brother. And then he tells the guy who's been beating him up, like, hey, take over his duties for now. Here's like $50,000. He like drops. I guess if we assume that's yen, he's dropping what? No, yeah, he's dropping
He's dropping stacks,
like thousands
regardless.
of dollars out of the window.
Yeah, take this pittance. Yeah, and I like that it's like the guy who was bullying him was like, hey, you do all the work, I'm skipping, don't tell the manager. And then it instantly turns into the guy he's bullying to skipping work, and he gets kind of bullied into staying. It's just like a instant reversal of the situation.
Yeah. Main character's name is Theodore, by the way. I missed that one, but yeah, main character called Theodore. He gets in the van. It was on the next page. I could have just clicked to it. I captured this little part of a panel because I wanted to bring up the fact that he was born and raised in the lofty mountains of Scotland, which is, you might think, kind of a weird place for a Japanese mangaka to choose to have his protagonists from. But there is a historical precedent here, and I'm wondering if you know what this comes from, Gautam.
It's an older like Arturian thing. It just felt like Arturian legend a little bit.
I think it could be that. Have you ever heard of Highlander?
Oh, no, I've never seen Highlander.
Okay. Highlander is this idea of like there can only be one Highlander and there's multiple immortals and they're all from Scotland. Like that's the idea of Highlander essentially. It's like an
Oh,
80s
got it.
movie
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. No, I've heard
Um
of Highlander, and there can only be one, and all
yeah,
that
there can only be
stuff. But
one. If you remember there was a meme when I was in college, probably when you were too, the like a guy like belting it out. I don't know. I'll send it to you later. That's like, man, we played that meme so much when I was in college. Anyways, that was from there was a Highlander anime from like 99 or something, like 90s, early 2000s. That's actually really well animated. Not very good, but anyways. So I think that the author took this idea of immortals from Scotland from Highlander, which I think is a cool inspiration there.
got it. Okay.
But yeah, we load up onto this plane. We meet two more. The synopsis for the series says that there's 7 total siblings, and so we only meet 5 of them in this one, and they kind of allude to I think one of their third brother who doesn't show up, and I think there's one more. But
Right.
yeah, so we meet his I guess his older brother and his older sister, Hayden and Eve. Eve I think is my favorite character in all of this. I think she's really fun, as we'll see in a minute. But everybody's pretty interesting. His
Yeah,
older
she
brother
definitely
Hayden.
has the most personality out of the lot so far with her weirdness.
She's the largest of the personalities, I would say.
But yeah, here they're just all kind of like she underwent plastic surgery, so she's kind of like unrecognizable. But
Mm.
uh, they're all ultra wealthy, like high class individuals because they're immortals and they've lived for a really long time.
Yeah, and they also
And the
have their
odd one out
own.
here is the MC who works at a gas station or a convenience store.
Yeah, the MC seems to be very sort of like I'm the down to earth normal one, and the others are kind of playing these tropes. Like the younger brother picks him up as this like computer tech genius. The older brother is like the super serious, maybe like business guy, and the older sister has like the beautiful, fashion, fashion rich person. But yeah, they tell him, hey, we have an emergency. Our younger sister was kidnapped. And they say Reen or Ryan, I don't know how to pronounce that exactly. And they're like, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. They kind of go over what's going to happen. They're flying on this little private jet. And the next thing you know, the jet is hit by a missile and explodes. And it's like incredibly violent. Like it's literally body parts flying everywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's like a little bit of voiceover here and they all kind of fall into the ocean. And the MC is like, I knew it, getting involved with my siblings. It's always asking for trouble. It's like this every time. And you think like, oh, that's weird. And then he like pulls himself up out of the water, is reconstructing his body. And this is where I started to like Eve the most because she's like, her head has been blown off and she's like, where's my body? Throwing a fit.
Yeah, and she needs to get reattached to her body ASAP because like her reasoning for freaking out like this is that her body will regenerate her head and it will be her old face and not her new plastic surgery face.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is like,
Which is a good concept.
yeah,
like
I think
that.
it was like at this moment, like when the plane explodes, which is not that many pages in, it's like 10 or 11 pages in, like it's pretty close to the start of this chapter. As soon as this happened, I was like, oh, okay. I thought I maybe knew where this was going, and now I don't. Like this is now kind of completely different. Like, so this was a big turn that I really liked. They all sort of recover. We get a little bit of like a time skip. Like this chapter just kind of moves. Like it doesn't really go. It's like they
Yeah.
recovered, and then it's like the next page. They're like, okay, we're infiltrating where we know the sister is, and it's like 3 weeks later. So I think there's like a throwaway line about like we spent 3 weeks getting to like swimming to land, and then getting our stuff together, and it's just like passed over. So
I love it. It's like it knows what it knows what it is, and that it's just going to be a really fun series. So it
Yeah.
skips all of the details it doesn't care to explain.
exactly,
Like,
which I
like
super
the boring
think is,
stuff. Yeah.
is good and the right choice. I didn't want to put both panels in here, but this little segment where Eve is like getting information out of this doctor guy, and she just like kicks him in the balls as hard as she can, and she's just like, I did research, I know that you're into this BDSM shit, I'm your mommy now, worship me. And he's just like, yep, here's the password. I thought that was a fun exchange. They do a little bit of action fighting through the hallways. We get
It's
Theodore.
cool action fighting. It's just
Actually,
basically
that part to me was just kind of like, this is fine. Like
Yeah, it's basically them just using their immortality powers to fight, like Eve taking out the machine gun and gunning
Yeah, it
down
was a
her
little bit
brothers.
of a little bit of personality in that Theodore, the main character, uses a katana because he's like, we're getting the idea that he's maybe like kind of a weeb, like he just likes Japan a lot. He like uses a katana. The Hayden, the older brother, uses like a bow and arrow, and then yeah, Eve shows up at the end with a chain gun, kind of like her big personality, big weapon. It's kind of a classic
Yeah,
combo. Um,
this part was maybe the funniest gag, where Ryan was like
yeah.
she'd been silent throughout the torture, and finally she's like crying and saying, "Please, no more. Please let me go.
Mhm.
Everyone, hurry, or it'll be too late."
Yeah.
And the guy who kidnapped her isn't sure what she's talking about. Yeah, and then we get to where we are now.
Yeah, it'll be too late. Yeah, it's in a couple more pages, but I know what you're talking about. And I do like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get a little bit of history. We meet Ryan here. It's like we're caught by religious fanatics a long time ago, forced to experience meaningless deaths over and over again. They tried to kill us in all sorts of ways. This is kind of standard for most immortality fair type things. Like, oh yeah, I've died a million times or whatever. We left to fend for ourselves no matter what. Who we're up against, we refuse to pointlessly suffer. Even immortals have the right to live in peace. Kind of the Theodore, the lead character, calling out here. We had a little bit as kind of like a plant for future stories where this guy who had captured Ryan, who he says, if what he said's true, then the legend of immortals is real. This is an era when the 1,000-year-old prophecy will be fulfilled. Good old classic prophecy story. Yeah,
I love how their like symbol is like kind of just every
it's like
kind of
everything.
secret organization put together. It's like a goofy.
I know that too. It's like there's
yeah.
pyramids, there's the twin snakes, there's the eyeball, there's the goat head, there's wings,
Yeah.
there's swords. It like quite literally is every single secret society thing combined.
I love it. It's like the most extra secret society with its over-designed symbol.
Yeah. Yeah, they mentioned Noel, which is the third brother. So there should be one more sibling that we haven't met yet, but leaving that open-ended. These spreads right at the end I really like. I like this one. I thought was like a great like group shot of everybody walking away and the building exploding behind him.
I love how truly apathetic they all look about.
Yeah,
leaving.
I mean, it's like it's interesting that they're all kind of like differently apathetic, being immortals. Like
Yeah.
like Eve only cares about herself. The younger brother who's into computers like is only into computers. The older brother Hayden is like more kind of standard, just like I'm business. I don't care about anything. And
I feel like Hayden is the only one doing the cool guy. Don't
Yeah.
look at explosions pose.
Yeah.
Everyone else
wonder
is like, okay, whatever.
yeah, I wonder if we'll get more of that. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I
Well-
thought there was a lot of personality. Like,
And there was a panel where Arthur was like, "Yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter. The worst case situation is we just dig our way out of here later. But
Yeah.
I'd rather not do that." Kind of a vibe.
yeah, which I thought about too. I was like, oh no, if they get buried, like, does that mean they're trapped and they'll die?
Yeah.
And then we get to the joke that you mentioned earlier, which is Ryan being like, it's too late. You have to you have to let me go. I don't want to be late. They're like,
Yeah.
she's like,
because
"Today's-
Comic Hit starts tomorrow.
she's like, comic it starts tomorrow. I can make it if we go right now. Which I thought was hilarious.
So her crying and like begging to be let go during the whole torture sequence was just her trying to get to Comic Hit on time.
Yeah, what did she say here? It's like, no more, please. Yeah, that was like a funny reversal. Because I figured like, oh, she'll be, she's the damsel in distress. And it's like, oh no, like she's actually the hyper weeb. And then we get kind of our ending set up for the rest of the series, which is essentially, they're all like, well, people are after us. Let's all move in together. But what that means is forcibly move in with the main character. And he's kind of like, he does not want that. Yeah, and then
the main character is also a weeb, I think, because he has that Ghost in the Shell shirt on.
he has a good shell shirt. He had the katana. His room is like multiple katanas and like samurai helmets and stuff. Like he just like has,
for sure.
which it kind of implied. What was it when he first uses the katana? I think it implies it's like, oh, it's been like 100 years since I've drawn a katana. So I'm guessing that he's like participated in what's his name, like Nobu. What's the guy's name?
Nobunaga.
Yeah, like Nobunaga's rebellion or the fighting, whatever that was. I'm thinking we're gonna get little jokes about like, oh yeah, I participated in this Japanese history event. Like, I think we're gonna get that in this.
I think so
story.
too. It seemed really fun so far.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be like the same vibe Kindergarten Wars has, where it's like not overly serious, but it's like fun and irreverent, and it'll be serious here and there.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see this being. Um, I mean, I think it's going to be fun because this first chapter I thought was a lot of fun. Really impressed by this one. One of the, I mean, it's so weird because we go over all these chapter ones that happen in Weekly Shonen Jump and stuff, and then like other magazines put out chapter ones, and I'm just like, this is killer. Like, if Weekly Shonen Jump put this out, like I hate to like focus on that magazine so much, but it's like if they put this out, people would be all over it. It would be great. Everyone would love this. It would be a hit like instantly. But they don't. They put out more generic stuff. But anyways, yeah, I just really like this. So
Yeah, it's just a risk. It's just and I think Shonen Jump takes very calculated risks.
yeah,
Ultimately.
and this author is probably unproven. Right? They probably I didn't do research on if this author had anything else published before. I know the next author does not, but yeah, we get a little. This is a setup for the story. Basically, it's like for the first time in several hundred years, I started living with my family under the same roof.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah.
a cute setup.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it as well. I think there like one thing that popped into my head is like when they were all on the plane, they were all kind of surprised that the main character Theodore is living in kind of squalor in comparison to them, where he is working as a convenience store attendant, and they make a few comments about it's like how if he needed money, he could just ask the family. It's like, yeah, I guess it's true. Like they're all immortals and all filthy rich. He is kind of the weird one. He's like the
Yeah.
outlier because they have unlimited wealth and power and whatnot, right? Knowledge, and he is choosing to do this. So he is kind of the like weirder than the rest of his family if you contextualize kind of the money and information and all that stuff he has in his head.
Yeah, which I think that's going to be the point of like comedy and tension here is going to be that
Yeah.
he's going to be just sort of like a normal person because he's just been living, like running, like you said, working at a convenience store, and everybody else is going to be, immortals with infinite money who've been doing, God knows what for the past hundreds of thousands of years or whatever. So yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
going to be. I think that's definitely part of the fun. But yeah, I mean, I really like this. I'm interested to read more. I think from what I saw, this is a fan scan, obviously, but I think what I saw, this is from a full volume. So hopefully in a couple of days, we'll get I think there's 4 or 5 chapters in this first volume. So I think we'll get the rest of them here pretty quick. And we'll see if it can keep up how fun it was. I think it can. I mean, this is a really strong chapter 1. So I'm excited for it.
Agreed. Yeah, I had a great time with it. So
Cool.
let's see if it keeps up the pace. And as long as it keeps up like the fun of it all, I'm good for it.
Yeah, good fun. Interesting. Yeah, I'm ready. The fun characters I think are the big thing for me, which I always enjoy. So
Yeah, definitely.
awesome. Let's talk about the other one, which is maybe even a little bit bigger. I saw a lot of people talking about this because this is new from Weekly Shonen magazine, Kodansha's sort of the rival, the second place to Weekly Shonen Jump's magazine. This is a series called Galaxias by Hatesaka. This author, I could not find any past history for them. It's possible they had, some one-shots or something that just aren't listed over here in the West. This one, I also really liked this one. I thought that this was really fun. Gautam, how did you feel about Galaxias?
Yeah, so I liked the last one. I loved this one. This one was so good. I thought that was such a strong chapter 1.
Yeah, I saw some other people saying this, and I'm gonna echo what they said. This gave me One Piece vibes, which is not something, even in chapter 1s that I like a lot, is not the kind of sort of tone and feeling that you get often from a series. And this series gave me some One Piece vibes.
I guess so. It is very adventure forward, you know?
Yeah, and it says it like right in the dialogue a bunch of times. I think we'll see where it's like she wants to go on an adventure. That is her thing. They're going on an adventure together. So yeah, that's for sure.
And both of our 2 MCs were just a blast. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. we are first introduced to Geo. She is like, we're introduced to her and she's like running away from home. She's like, I'm going on an adventure. It's like, the mayor's gonna be pissed. She's like, I'm setting out on a journey. I'm sick of the boonies. Like I like that this is framed as sort of, this is the classic, what is it, like farm to king or whatever, the classic hero's journey of a small boy out in the boonies, does his journey and becomes a thing, right? It's
Right.
It's King Arthur, it's Luke Skywalker, it's all those things. I like that this Geo is framed as she's the kid out in the boonies and her journey is, we don't know where it's going, but I if it follows the hero's journey, it'll go there.
It is very much the hero's journey setup, and it knows it too, right? Like it references it.
Yeah.
I'd like to just point out that this guy who's like complaining about all of his ailments is very funny.
Yeah,
it's
the two guys at the start. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like my leg, my temples. It's like the author had some extra gags, and he's like, let me just throw them in on the side.
It's
here.
like I can fit them somewhere. Page 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, but pretty quick here. We get her father, the guy he calls father, who has this like nifty scorpion tail. Also, can I just say, great character designs in this series. Like immediately, Geo stands out. Her dad had with this like beanie, mustache, round glasses, scorpion tail. Like man, like what a profile, what a design. Yeah, like immediately I'm in love with like everything this is doing visually.
The art is also phenomenal. We'll get that out of the way. It is just so good.
The what is phenomenal?
Like the art and the reaction faces.
Oh yeah.
They are just. It is just so good.
Oh yeah. The last couple of pages I grabbed here when it starts getting to the action are like some of my favorite things I've seen recently. Geo lays down a little bit of history for us here. It's like there aren't any adventures left. Everything's been written down. She's kind of not necessarily like a bookworm, but she's like read about a lot of adventures. And she says, like, all this stuff has been done, right? All these, the tallest mountain's been climbed because the world's greatest adventurer, this guy called Yuri Holst, spent decades exploring all the unknown places on the world.
Or her dad is saying that to prevent her from, leaving.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
He's like, the world's been conquered already. You got nothing to adventure for.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, Yuri Holst, my hero, he's so cool. And then he, like, immediately is like, don't you dare talk about it in front of me. With, again, good faces down here that I absolutely love. And he's like, the mayor sure hates Yuri Holst, huh? And she's mad because her dad won't let her leave, right? He's trying to keep her safe on the island. Don't let her go out and explore, right? Classic tension there. And she's like, oh, she's pining, will my whole life be like this? And she's looking at a book called Galaxias, right? Which will come into play a little bit longer. And she is like fishing on the beach. And here we get introduced to our other MC in like one of my favorite pages of a character introduction maybe ever is like hooking this guy up. And it's like, he's like, what am I supposed to say? It's like, is anything biting today? Well, he's giving this like insane face. Like this is the kind of stuff that reminds me of like One Piece. Like,
yeah, she catches him like a fish. He's just like in the ocean for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a good pun.
Yeah. It's great. He doesn't have a name yet. He basically, he basically says, I forgot everything. I don't remember anything. He's like, I kind of, I remember like words, but I don't know anything about myself or the world. And we see that he's been keeping
very cool with it. He's like,
he's like whatever.
Totally fine with it.
Yeah. He's like whatever, I'm going to figure it out. He's like, can't remember anything about myself or the world. One day, all of it just disappeared from my brain. Started my journey. As you can see, things aren't going well. This morning I boarded a ship not knowing that I had to pay, and here we are. And again, her face down here, you're very right that like the faces, like I'm just, another thing that kind of reminds me of One Piece series is just like the facial reactions are great. And like, that's something I love in manga. So
there are some like generally hysterical faces in this one. Like, oh my gosh.
Like this one. Yeah. We get sort of our first antagonist here. I don't remember this guy's name, but we're going to fight him in a little bit. She tells him, he's like, oh, I've been canning. And he starts eating like, this is, what is this painting called? This is called like it's
that painting of that guy eating that baby.
I think it's actually supposed to be Titan eating his children, I think is what this,
you're right. This is. It's like, I think it's Kronos eating his
Kronos,
children.
Kronos.
Or maybe Zeus's dad, whatever. That is Kronos. Okay, yeah, it's Kronos eating his kids.
It is Saturn devouring his son. Yes, that's what
okay.
it's. So it's the it had the Roman version of it, but yeah.
Yeah. So she
It's the
shows
same
off
idea.
her jar collection, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Can I eat these?" And she's like, "Yes." And he tries to eat the whole jar,
Yeah.
and the reaction face is Saturn eating his children.
It's so, which is like, man, this, I like,
That was very funny.
yeah,
I got an
I was
audible
in love with
laugh at
everything
me.
in this chapter. It's very good. And she's kind of given up and reserved here at this point. Geo has. She's like, in my next life, I can go a bit further. And this unnamed secondary MC here is like, it's like, you dummies, like. She's like, dummy, blockhead, lazy bones. Like, why do you still remember all these insults and you've forgotten everything else? This part I really liked because we talk about protagonists taking action, and having your protagonist kind of like take action at the start and then be beaten down and give up and then have someone else come and encourage them. And we're going to see that kind of keeps going. I like this a lot. So he's like, you're so boring. He's like, what do you want to do? And she's like, okay, I'm going. You've like re-steeled my resolve. Like, let's do it. Let's go. Let's travel. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, and it's kind of opposing. It's like the opposite of what her dad was talking about a little earlier, where the dad said he hated these people who don't consider the realism of the situation, kind of what possibilities are realistic, and instead just follow their adventure lust instead. And this character is the opposite, who's like, hey, what do you want to do? And you should do it. Kind of a vibe. So yeah.
For sure. We finally are given, we give him a name that Geo takes from the Galaxias book she has called Narade. He's like, I'll make good use of it. He's like, let's meet again somewhere, and then he just like swims off. He's just like,
he just swims off into the ocean. I love this guy. He's a moron. He's like a very Luffy-esque moron for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Where he is all adventures, hopes, and dreams, and not really logic and thinking things through.
He's like, yep, just gotta do something. Just go do it.
Take action.
Yeah, she mentions up in the top here talking about the book Galaxias that she has. It's a story of a man who gets cursed by a witch and forgets his way home. So he travels around the country searching for his family. I think it fits you perfectly. I think this is probably more prophetic than either of these people know. I'm guessing that the Galaxias might tell them more about their story, but we'll have to see in the later chapters if that's true or not. But I'm guessing it's going to be.
It has to be. Yeah. It already kind of fits hers.
Yeah. So Geo she's like, okay, I'm running away again. Here we go. And she goes into the forest or whatever and runs into her father, right? Who's like, has these weird gray, he has like bones coming out of him and like weird shale coming out of his face. And we meet sort of our first little antagonist guy. His name is Yerkes. Yeah, Yerkes. He says he's one of the government's dragon knights, which is always cool. He's like, I've been looking for you. He's like, I know this is sudden, but I'm going to execute you for treason. And I like this guy because he's just like straight up a shithead the whole time. And this is where we get kind of another big reveal impetus is that Geo, he says, this is Yerkes talking. He says, the world's greatest adventurer, Yuri Holst, has a daughter, Geo Holst. And he's like, oh, you didn't really tell her, this like adoptive father we now know. He's like, your real father is currently wanted as a suspect in the murder of our country's supreme leader, the Dragon King. You're the child of a king killer. And he's like, I'm gonna kill you. And she gets really scared. And this is where, like I mentioned, liking protagonists who get out and do stuff. She seems very scared. She seems to kind of not be doing anything. And then here she just like picks up her gun and starts fighting him. And I appreciate this a lot. When I was reading this, I was expecting, I was like, oh, okay, he'll like go to try to kill her. She won't do anything. And then Narade will come back and save her. And I'm super, super glad that we get a couple of pages and panels of her like fighting back herself against this guy. I think that is like more valuable than you can know. That instead of the protagonist immediately getting saved by someone else, that she takes into her own hands, fights back. Like that to me is worth a ton.
Yeah, and it is. You're right. It's character competency. She is a badass. She's not just a damsel in distress. That's very important to establish. But I thought also another thing that this had established is this page. Maybe it's in the next one. I don't know if you have it in there, but she's more. She's not really scared of the antagonist. She's more upset that her father isn't her real father in the moment.
Yeah, I
Which
don't
I
think
thought
I
was
pages, but yeah.
yeah, it's sweet. It's like a sweet thing to be upset about, and her father is like surprised by that too.
Yeah. Yeah. But more good facial expressions up here. There's just, it's something, I hate to just like keep bringing up One Piece, but like something else that remind me is like these little cut ins on the side. Like that's something that Oda does a lot, that not a lot
Oh,
of,
yeah.
not a lot of mangaka do visually, to just like put little kind of close ups of faces or little like things happening in the background in little, like smaller side panels like this. And this in Galaxias did a lot. Yeah, but we get kind of a little bit more explanation of, I guess, like the power system you could call it, is that all the people with powers are called dragons, which like, okay, that's cool. That's a very Japanese thing, I'd say.
I think they are dragons because of their tails. I think they're like actually dragons.
Yeah, or I mean, I think that, I don't know. Do we think that that's like, oh, I can become a full-fledged dragon and this is me doing like a hybrid human form thing with a tail? Or is it just like,
I don't know.
we
I
call
think
the people
so.
dragons, but they just have tails and their powers? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess this is just kind of an introduction to what it is. We don't know that much about it.
Yeah,
But he
like I
says,
thought that stuff sticking out of the dad's eyes was like dragon scales, but I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I think it is, or something similar to it, because Yerkes says here, he says like, I'm a scale dragon. I can freely increase any matter I touch with my hand, rocks, trees, earth, even your bones and teeth. My weapon. It might be the guy's teeth or something growing out of his face, because he does have ribs sticking out, which I think was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing.
I'm curious. Yeah, maybe they're humanoid dragon type things instead of full on dragons. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
I'm not
guess
sure.
we'll see.
I don't. Did it describe what the dad's power was? Because it had him
He's a poison dragon. Venom.
paralysis needle. Yeah. He uses like
Because
poison
he
paralysis and stuff.
venomizes the surrounding around him once too during this fight.
Yeah, which is again it kind of the very again reminding me of Devil Fruit from One Piece, just a very kind of like, or like powers from My Hero Academia, or just kind of like the power is whatever, like it's just like a thing that's got a rule. Like this guy's thing is I can touch something and increase the amount of it, which is an interesting power. Um,
That's a sweet power.
Yeah. Again, here, Geo, instead of being sort of like scared or beaten down after the bad guy chasing after her, kind of remembers like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, my younger self is telling me to go on an adventure, and we have Narade being like, what do you want to do? And he thinks like, oh, mission complete, I've got her killed. And then she like, you're right, like she turns into an absolute badass here and like flips behind him with the gun, like shoots him, almost gets him, and starts yelling and being like, again, I really, really like when a protagonist like is like goes at like has agency and goes after stuff. And I really respect this. I'm not gonna dig in too much to it on just chapter 1, but I really expect that this is like a girl that's doing all this. Like that's, less common. It's less common to see a girl being this kind of proactive and having this much agency in a shonen adventure thing. So I really, really like that about this.
Agreed.
Yeah. And she kind of runs up and, they're kind of talking about like, nobody's easier to kill than a human with a gun. That gun's the only thing in her hand. Come at me then. And then we get maybe my favorite part of the whole thing, because it felt the goofiest. She like spits a bullet out of her mouth and he's like, huh? She spat it out. And she's like, if I can't make a scratch on you, how about this? And then she just like baseball bats the bullet into his face. And it's like, I don't know. That's just like the goofiest thing imaginable. And it's like fucking cool also.
And I love that it is kind of enforcing the theme of curiosity and adventure triumphing all. Like her flashback just a second ago, where she was almost kind of giving up hope. Her older self mentions like, oh, the volcanic ashes. Is it hot? Is it cold? I don't know. Makes me excited either way. And she spits out the bullet and hits it, and she was like, I don't know if I didn't know if the gunpowder would explode or not, but hey, maybe I'm lucky. I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
She won because she gambled on her curiosity instead of playing it safe and playing it logically like this guy expected.
Yeah. I'm going to find out
that.
what happens when I do something wild and crazy, because I want to know what happens. So yeah.
Exactly.
And then she kicks him in the dick, which is funny, which is a classic goof.
It's always
Another great facial expression on the left and the bottom. Like, these are great faces. These remind me, these faces actually remind me a lot. And some of this art style reminds me a little bit of Okubo, like Soul Eater, Fire Force. A little bit of vibes in some of these faces, and the kind of the shading, I guess I would say, reminds me of that. And a little bit of character design in there too, maybe. But yeah, this is funny. He's just like, I know you're a bad guy, but sorry. Yeah, then he goes to strike back, and of course it does happen, which I'm totally fine with at this point, even though I said I would have been a little upset if it happened earlier. At this point, I've gotten the characterization I need. She's done her part. She's just trying to escape, which is the smart thing to do. Narade shows up here, blocks his attack. And he says, like, the funny thing, because I think this happened earlier in the chapter. She tells him, like, he's like, didn't you know? Like, you get arrested if you hit people.
Yeah.
Which is like you think like, oh yeah, the hero's shown up. What's his badass intro line? It's like, it's that. And which is fun and funny.
He shares his worldly knowledge he learned a few weeks ago.
Exactly.
Probably.
He learned like this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we get like, this is my favorite probably art panel of the whole thing.
I love it. Yeah. He looks nuts.
He looks absolutely crazy. We don't really know what his power is yet, I don't think. A really well composed piece of art right here, which I really like. And then we get another one where I think the bad guy like monologues about some stuff. He's like, you can't do this. We have to kill her. She killed the queen, whatever. And he's just like, I don't give a shit about that. And, like, punches him in the chest. It's so good, man. We both agree. Like, in love with this chapter 1. This series seems awesome. This art is great.
Yeah.
The facial expressions are great again. It's amazing.
And after he punches the guy away, he has like this line where he's like, "Yeah, he kind of freaked me out when he started talking so much. It startled me." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess, man. Yeah, that's great."
Yeah, this reminds me of this reminds me again of like One Piece, Fire Force, which are two of the series that I would say thrive most on the fact that they are just a lot of fun, and I think that is also where Galaxias is excelling. Like, it's just a ton of fun.
Agreed. Yeah.
But yeah, we learned here that Narade, he says, it's like, I heard you're Yuri Holst's daughter. Truth is, I've been traveling around in search of him. I've got my own reason for wanting to meet him. He's like, help me out while we adventure. I'm sure it'll be more fun with two of us. She like looks at her dad, and he kind of gives her the nod. A little bit of voiceover here. It's like, the first thing I discovered during my journey was that humans love adventures, which is, again, like you mentioned at the start, Gautam, like, we've very much enforcing that, like, adventure is the point. Like, that's what we're doing. We're going on an adventure. That's what this is about. Excellent.
Yeah, it is very much establishing a chase your dreams kind of theme.
Yeah.
So far.
For sure.
And it's been great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, this chapter 1 was great. This is like, it's just maybe the best chapter 1 of the year. I can't think of anything that's been better so far. I'm trying to remember.
I think this is very good. Best of the year, that's a tough one. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see at the end of the year when you do the awards.
I like Ghost Chasers a lot as well.
Yeah, Ghost Chasers had a good chapter 1.
There was something else we talked about a few weeks ago that had a really good chapter 1, but I'm not remembering.
Was it the Exorcist one? The actual funny one?
Oh, not the Kappa one. Yeah.
Yeah, the I know which one you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Was it that one? Is that the one you're thinking of?
Yeah, I think this is probably the best.
Yeah,
probably.
I think this is my favorite. Maybe, like, for sure. This just hit, like, I don't know. I read, like, maybe I'm sure other people have different reasons for reading manga, watching anime, whatever. But it's like, generally, I do it to escape and to have fun. And, like, man, the series that just hits you with fun, this reminded me of, like, a bunch of series that are absolutely my favorites. Like One Piece, one of the most fun series ever. It reminded me of Fire Force and Soul Eater, which thrive on just being, like, putting fun and coolness above all else. Like, the characters are great in those stories. The actual plot is fine, anywhere from okay to good. But that's not really the focus, but it's just a lot of fun to read. And yeah, this one is in there with it.
You know how they say, like, you can feel love come off the page?
Yeah.
It feels like the author had a great time making this chapter, and it shows.
Yeah, for sure. I really, really hope this keeps up quality. I hope that this is a big hit. I think this chapter 1 was just
It did
exceptional.
everything well. I have no issues.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Agree. I think I literally have no, like, even in the last one, maybe I had a couple minor issues, but like this one, no. Like, art exceptional, the design, power system, storytelling, characters. It has everything.
Which is why I wanted to do this one second, because I liked the Immortal story, but I knew I'd be gushing about this one, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
The first one was good, but this one was like such a phenomenal chapter 1 that I was like, let's make this second so we don't have to follow it up with something that is also good but worse.
Yeah. Was good but not quite as good. Yeah, I mean, and I agree. I did really like the 1,000-Year Family.
It was also solid, which is why
also
I didn't
solid.
wanna,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why this is such a, like I mentioned at the top of the episode, it's like I wasn't planning on these two, but I'm super happy to bring both of them because I super pleasantly surprised how good both of these series were, and yeah, especially Galaxias.
I know, very good.
Do you think here's my question? Do you think this is going to have the reception that we have to it? Do you think this is going to be an instant hit in Japan, in the West? I have seen people talking about this in the West before it came out, and a little bit online. So
it's hard to predict these kinds of things because, like, by all means, it should. By all means, it should. It is so good. I think anyone who's given it a proper chance would like it. But who knows? Like, it depends on, like, if it's marketed well. Like, if nobody knows about it, it'll just fall off the radar. And sometimes our tastes just don't align with the mass public. Like, look at Ranger Reject sales and look at how much we love it.
Yeah,
I don't know. I hope it does well, though. I really, really enjoyed it.
I really do too. Yeah, I think we won't get too into the weeds on how bad the Manga app is, and that is what might shoot this in the foot.
True.
The other really good chapter 1 was Kaijin Fugeki. That's the other one that I really liked.
Which one is that again?
That was the two guys that become the mech, the frog mech with the sword.
Oh, frog mech. I love that.
Yeah, that was another really good one. Also on the Manga app, which I have not read another chapter of because I'm not paying money to read that series.
Crap. I forget it. Like, things on the Manga app exist.
Yeah, me too. It'll even remind me, and I'll look at it. It'll be like, it costs 50 money to do this, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, there's probably a way to get free money, but I'm not doing it. So, yeah, I really want to keep up with Kaijin Fugeki in this one, so we need to figure out.
Especially this one for me. Even though I really liked the other one as well, it was also very good. By the way, I like one thing I just noticed is that you see the little strap on his jacket kind of blending in with the tail.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool. That's like cool visual design, blending his like outfit and his tail together.
Yeah, I mean the design here. I mean, I think that's. I see what you're saying. The strap. Like this strap here.
I think it's meant to like just make his outfit and his tail seem like naturally.
Yeah, like evoke like another barb or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you're talking. He like essentially has the like a black lightning around him, like he's using like armament hockey from One Piece, essentially. But he's.
True.
I mean, yeah, basically. Yeah, man, really exciting. Need to figure out. I need to just actually get into the Manga app and navigate and figure out. Okay, can I get free coins? Because if I can't get free coins, it's really just like 2 things a week I want to read.
I just really hate anything that uses like alternative currency to trick like whatever user into thinking they're not spending money, like, or forgetting how much money they're spending. It's just like,
because if I go in, because I was looking at it earlier, and if I go in to, well, fuck it. It's like 70 like pence or like monies or whatever it is, and you look and it's like, oh, you can buy 120 monies for $1. I did the math, and for me to catch up on Kaijin Fugeki, which I think is 7 chapters, I believe we are 8 chapters deep. I've read chapter 1. It would cost me like $6 or something. And it's like, okay, like, or I could just like buy the first volume, which is probably 4 or 5 chapters for $10. Like, it's not that much more expensive. And I get to own it. And I think I'm just renting it on the Manga app. Anyways, we are not going to get distracted by how bad the Manga app is on this episode. Galaxias is fucking great. This is an amazing first chapter.
Really definitely go give it a read.
Yeah, really, really excited for it. Cool. Let's go over our last cute thing.
Not even, honestly. It's like, it's just a weird, It's just a weird thing.
This is weird. Yeah. This is
Yeah,
called,
I figured we had two good discussions, so we might as well end it on like a short shitpost.
Yeah, get a little shitpost out there. This is a series called Makina Mama's Unbecoming Daily Life. This is by an author called Kotoka. This has 2 chapters out right now. I only grabbed like a very few panels. This is the entirety of chapter 1 on your screen right now. And then chapter 2 has a couple more pages, but essentially it is a robot who is a mother. It basically tells you right at the start, like, my plentiful interactions with babies have helped me develop something like a heart. So it's like, okay, it is not a heartless robot.
Yeah, it's a babysitting android.
Yeah, baby raising, or yeah, babysitting, baby raising, kind of both, same thing.
Yeah.
She's like, I wonder what the next baby I will meet, and it's a full-grown office worker. And she has a really funny face. And then I think the other page is from chapter 2. It's like, I am a babysitting android. A babysitter's job is to take care of a baby's needs. Not only that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what kind of baby I'm taking care of? And it's like, bam, 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 bam. It's just like a goofy opening page. And like the rest of this chapter is weird. He like it's funny.
That's like the good part where he gives like overt criticism to like how she's raising him. He's like, actually,
could you smile more as my mother, please? It's like what he says to her.
Be more proactive in your smiles and encouragement next time, please.
Because she's very
Then he goes back to baby mode, and then like someone rings on the doorbell for an Amazon package, and he goes like an adult and picks it up
and like signs for it. Yeah, it's funny because she's like, wait, maybe he's just a really big baby. He could like he's really a baby. Like maybe he's not a man, and then he like does full man stuff, and she's like, wait a minute, this is an absolute sheep post. This is probably posted on Twitter, right? I imagine.
I have to. I think it is like a Twitter
it reads like it's probably a Twitter thing, yeah. But
it's also something that's like incredibly short, and I think it'll be like 10 chapters because
or like
you can only do the baby gag for so long.
I don't know how long this goes. But yeah. Okay. That again is Makina Mama's Unbecoming Daily Life by the author is Kotoka. Mention it one more time. Galaxias is by author Hatesaka. And The Dancing Thousand Year Family by Sho Kasugi. But yeah, let's go on to some news. There's not a whole lot. It hasn't been too many days since we recorded our last episode. I want to mention the new Ranma Half anime by Mappa got a trailer. That's a pretty hype thing. Everyone seems to love that series. I've never touched it.
I haven't either. It was popular when I was a kid.
It was popular in like the 90s, I'm pretty sure. Like maybe very early 2000s. But
do people call it Ranma Half or Ranma
I don't know. I have always heard it called Ranma 1/2. But 1/2 is just like is a half. Is that 1/2? I don't know.
I guess it's technically 1/2.
I
guess like 1/2 just sounds better.
1/2 does definitely sound better. I'm gonna go to the Wikipedia. Ranma Nibun no Ichi, which is like 2 and 1 or something. Pronounced Ranma 1/2 in English. Okay, Ranma 1/2. There it is. Wiki saves the day again. But that's coming out. I mean, it looks good. Mappa's. I'm not gonna say Mappa's a good studio because they have some bad practices. The animation that Mappa outputs is very good, is what I will say.
Usually.
Yeah, almost always.
Depends on their caseload, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But that's interesting. I'm curious maybe to go check that out. The manga maybe at some point. I mean, it's like a super beloved series. So, and then the other big news thing that's happening is we got announcements for the American Manga Awards. And so I wanted to go over this because I think this is pretty big. This is industry like side and inside industry people giving awards to the American publications of Japanese media. So this is not necessarily giving things like, the best writing or the best art, because that is a Japanese thing. This is, again, you see best translation, lettering, publication design, those types of things. We do have kind of best new manga, best continuing series, but there's some interesting nominations in here, and I think some really good call-outs for some series that we really like. So we'll just go through these pretty quick here. Best new manga, this is basically, did it have a chapter 1 between, August 1st and July 30th this year? So technically you could still publish something and they would nominate you, but they're out. Darwin Incident, that was technically the first episode we ever recorded was on Darwin Incident. That is an interesting series. It did get an official release in the West, so cool to see that one in here. Hashtag Dracula. I think this is I don't know
The
how to
art
actually.
looks good.
Yeah, I have seen this one around. The art is really good. This is a is it? I want to say it's like kind of a josei take. Like it's a little bit more like female centered, romancy.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, I haven't read this, but I've seen a lot of art from this, and it looks really good. Just like Mona Lisa, this is by Sumiji Yoshimura. I haven't heard about this one. Interested again. I like these awards. I like these awards because they give me new things to read. Because I'm like, oh, I haven't heard of this. It has a Western release. It has an English translation, and it's nominated for an award. Let me check it out. That's how I've discovered a lot of stuff that I like. So, just like Mona Lisa, that's something. Mothers, again, this is something that I've not heard of. This might not interest me as a early middle-aged male that much, but who knows? Maybe it could be excellent. And then Soara and the House of Monsters, which I read the chapter 1 of this
Me too.
a year ago and thought it was okay, pretty good. I reread the chapter 1 for that. Oh, we'll go over that a little bit later. But yeah,
I really like this. This is the house building with the dwarves.
yes, house building with the dwarves. It's another, I would say, good fantasy in the vein of Frieren and Delicious in Dungeon, where it is not an isekai fantasy, it is not an RPG fantasy, it is like an RTS fantasy, like a strategy building construction thing, like a Minecraft strategy. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Minecraft
like it's racist human paladin joins a bunch of dwarves in building houses for monsters and overcomes racism.
Yeah. But I reread chapter 1. I really liked it a lot.
It was great. Yeah.
But yeah, again, this is another one like, oh, I saw this show up on the awards yesterday or the day before, and I was like, oh, I should read that. That looks interesting. But those are the best series, best continuing manga series. Again, this is interesting selections because they're not just like, oh, what are the best things, the best manga, the most popular manga out in here. So Blood on the Tracks, I've heard of this series. I have not read it. Delicious in Dungeon, it's like easy shoe in. I think I think we'll be getting the last volume. Maybe the last volume of Delicious in Dungeon is out, but yeah, good to see that one. We covered that on the podcast.
It's
You can
just
go
the
back.
best of the best.
Yeah, you can go back to late last year. When did that finish? November last year, I think, because we covered the final chapter of that. Dinosaur Sanctuary, which I mentioned to you that I started reading again the other day.
Yeah,
this
I
one's really
remember
fun.
The first few chapters of that.
Yeah, this one's really fun. Like a really, really good slice of life, basically about like zookeeping dinosaurs. Really enjoyed what I read of this. I think I read like 7 chapters of it. There's maybe 12 or 16 or so. But yeah,
Jurassic Park if it was managed responsibly.
yeah, it's basically like, yeah, Jurassic Park, but a zoo. And it mostly managed responsibly. The main character's dad did die in a dinosaur attack like
How do you
10
know
years earlier.
that was the intent of Jurassic Park? Is what they're doing here?
Yeah, pretty much. This is like Jurassic Park, but it works, I guess, is what you said. So, yeah. We have She Loves to Cook, She Loves to Eat, which is one that I've
hear
heard
good
about.
things.
Yeah, I hear lots of good things about this. I know we need to check it out. The Summer Hikaru Died, which we've talked about. I'm not up to date on this, but an excellent series of what I've read of it. Wrapping up, I think, pretty soon. I think I heard that maybe this is in its final arc, so a good one to see there. We have Best New Edition of Classic Manga. These are probably things that are not, right, where the Weekly Manga Podcast specifically focuses on ongoing stuff, so we're not probably going to go back and care about any of these, but I'll read them out. Minami's Lover. We have My Name is Shingo. We have Neighborhood Story and Okinawa. So those are the nominees there. And UFO Mushroom Invasion. Sorry, there's 5 nominees. This is where we get to the interesting stuff, right? This is best translation, best other thing. I think the first nominee here would absolutely be my nominee every year that it's published. Stephen Paul for Akane Banashi. I have mentioned by name Stephen Paul on this podcast a couple of times. He did the translation that I read for Monster. He did most of the translation I read for 20th Century Boys. He does the current translation of One Piece. He does Akane Banashi, which is easily one of the most difficult things to translate ongoing right now. Stephen Paul, in my opinion, is like the greatest working Japanese to English translator in the world. Like, this guy is a fucking superstar. And it's like, he's like, no one is as good as he is at translating stuff. So yeah, and Akane Banashi is an incredibly difficult thing. The Rakugo performances are not done in normal Japanese dialect. They are done in an old, like a kind of an ancient Edo style dialect. So yeah, it is hard to emphasize how impressive it is that Akane Banashi reads as well as it does to us every single week. Because Akane is like one of the best, maybe the best thing in Weekly Shonen Jump the past couple of years. Like, One Piece, Akane are like 1 and 2 for me, like pretty much every week.
I would say it's like One Piece, Sakamoto, Akane.
Yeah, those
three for me.
those three are at the top like every week. But for as far as writing and like the words on the page, like Akane most weeks is like this is the best.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But yeah, so I give Steven a shout out there. I think he's just awesome, and I think this is a really really good translation. Bocchi the Rock's translation by John Neal. I've seen John Neal's name a couple times. That's a name that I think is pretty familiar to some people in the translation space. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what he does, but I know that he's pretty prolific. David Evelyn is another very prolific translator. He's very active on Twitter. I follow him. Very cool, funny guy. He also translates stuff like Undead Unluck. He translates, what was that weird, like, super murderous Jump Plus series? Came out a couple months ago. I don't know. He also does that. He also translates Kaiju number 8. So again, very prolific translator. But he was nominated for Dalkara, which I have not seen or heard about, but I'm kind of interested in. I think a girl wearing a school uniform and boxing gloves immediately kind of perks my eyes up of like, oh, that looks different. And they give little notes here for sort of, they give little notes for sort of like why they're sort of not, why the translation here is good, like a variety of voices, non-native speakers to regional accents, gives the title its challenges. So stuff like that we're seeing here. Again, another good one. And Kevin Steinbach is nominated for Isak, which I've not heard of either of these. I'm sure Kevin is on a lot of stuff. Most of these people are pretty prolific translators, but I've not heard of Isak. But I'd be interested to check it out. And then, of course, Stephen Kohler, the translator for Witch Hat Atelier. Another great series, and another, I would say, if you've read the official translation, very, very good translation. It is difficult to take sort of like a French medieval inspired names and culture and magic and filter that through Japan and then translate that into English. These are the types of things that are really difficult. And I think the Witch Hat Atelier translation is great. I think this guy does a good job. So my personal pick here is Akane, I think by a mile, but any of these I think are probably a good choice here.
And they get down to the nitty gritty of like lettering and all that.
Yeah, so there's only two more categories. It's lettering and then design. So like design of the books. But yeah, lettering. I mean, this is one of those things that's just like super underappreciated. This is a thing that, you translate. Even the weekly publications, we don't notice because these letterers are really good at this. Letterers are also usually what fan translation groups call redrawers, right? Like if there's a large Japanese symbol that says bang, a sound like an ah or a bang or whatever, they generally have to erase that symbol and write in, bang or whatever in English letters. And that involves redrawing. So this is not to mention things like choosing different, it's not fonts, it's typesets or type. I don't remember. This is not my specialty at all. We'll call them fonts for now, and people can correct us in the comments. Choosing different fonts for different, different voices, different effects on screen, that type of thing. I mean, this is all the kinds of things that the letterers do. There's, they're doing a lot. The person is, responsible for how the letters and words on the page look, and even how some of the art looks on the page. So yeah, it's an impressive feat. So we'll go through the nominees here. Phil Christie here for, I have to zoom in because this is very small. Phil Christie for lettering and retouch to Search and Destroy Volume 1. I have not heard of this. Again, this is another of these things that looks kind of interesting. Looks very kind of 1950s sci-fi to me. We have Vadim K lettering for They'll Make a Man Out of You. Which I have not heard of. This looks erotic.
Like porn.
Yes, I believe that it is. Rebecca Zay for Tokyo Interstellar Immigration, which is a series that I have not heard of, but sounds... Isn't there a series just called Tokyo Aliens?
Yeah, is this like an illegal alien?
Is this
like literally
okay, is this Tokyo Aliens or is this a different series? Now
I have no idea.
I'm going to figure it out. Tokyo Aliens. I think it's a different series. I think these are different series. Anyways, but I mean, this looks interesting, right? I mean, this looks look, Men in Black is maybe the best 90s movie of all time. So anything that's like Men in Black, I'm down to check out. So yeah, that's another one. We have Blade of the Immortal, Deluxe Edition 10, Blade of the Immortal Classic. Tomoko Saito, the letterer there, their nomination. Again, you can see on these pages, like I was talking about, right? Like they have written in the words crack, or that was most likely hiragana or katakana in there making that noise. They erased it, they redrew it, and they have to do stuff like this. Yeah, here we go. See, it shows the original page of what they had to do to get it in there. So really impressive stuff that a lot of people don't realize. We have, is it Lise? Yeah, Lise Blakesley, also for Witch Hat. This would probably be my pick here just because the paneling and detail and stuff that the Witch Hat goes into probably requires a lot of work from the letterer to go through and do. Yeah, I mean, look at the original page here of the like ha 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 around the page and them having to go and redraw all of that, or hurrah. Like that's a lot of work is what I will say. And that is impressive work that deserves recognition. And I'm glad that we're getting it. So those are the nominations for best letterer. The last one is best publication design. This is sort of like design of the whole booklet and everything. Phil Balsman on Initial D Omnibus. These look pretty cool. It shows you the whole book. It's like, these all look great. Like, so I couldn't even pick here. Nikki Lim for cover design and the Kara's page for, Kara's page for lettering and interior designs with My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, which is a series I've heard about. Interested to read. I've heard a lot of positive things about that series. So yeah, Harvey worked.
That sounds like that sounds like an interesting read.
I agree.
Being gay in Japanese society, yeah, I'm curious to see what that's about.
Yeah, absolutely. And the volume looks really good. It has a pink color to it. So very cool. Adam Grano for My Name is Shingo. We saw My Name is Shingo up in Best Ongoing. I think it showed up. But yeah, also a very good looking volume. And then we got Nikki Lim and Sandy Grayson, the box set design on Orange, which I believe is a very classic. I want to say Jose, one of those. But yeah, I mean, also again, like, it actually looks really good. A really good box set. Andrew Miller for, here's Tokyo Aliens. Andrew Miller for Tokyo Aliens. Again, one of those things that has a lot of color and style to it. So cool. Yeah. I mean, those are the American Manga Award nominees and categories. I am super happy that this group is putting this on. I'm super happy that they're recognizing what I think are some really good talents in the scene. I think that this is the first year they're doing it. I do think that this will hopefully continually grow year over year, and we'll see more and more. So really, really happy to see that.
And we'll look out for our letters to judge the thing next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. We won't be doing our own awards. We'll be invited as press, hopefully.
We'll be absorbing them, actually.
Yeah. There you go. So that's it. I guess we'll go on to one more thing and get out of here pretty quick. Gautam, I think you're going first. Tell me what you've been up to.
Yeah, sure, man. I've been playing Armored Core 6 here and there. It is just an immensely fun game. I think it's like, just a pick up and play FromSoft game is the dream. And it is like, you could just do bite-sized missions, like when you have lunch breaks and all that stuff. It's just great. I love Iguazu. He's like my favorite character in that game. I didn't expect it to have a story, but he's like the biggest, saltiest.
He's the biggest hater.
He's the biggest hater.
Yeah.
I think he's a hilarious character. He's like the Team Rocket of that game, except if Team Rocket was like, well, actually, they're just as persistent. Yeah, so he is the Team Rocket of this game.
Yeah.
It's great.
There's also I wanted to shout out, if you're not interested in playing this game, Vati Vidya, the largest, I want to say, sort of FromSoft, Dark Souls, Elden Ring creator, has it's like 4 hours long, 3.5 hour long, complete lore story of Armored Core 6 that is so cool, entertaining, and shed a lot of light on a lot of cool stuff. I watched that.
But you should definitely just play the game.
Yeah, but like play the game and then go watch it, and you'll be like, oh, that's what the story is. But yeah, cool. And as we alluded to earlier, can I click to the next? Oh my gosh, of course it doesn't work. Is it going to open it? All right, something happened. I read Soara Builds a House for Monsters. I read the first chapter of that again. I wanted to give that a shout out. That was fun. It's good. I think I'm going to keep reading it. There's not that many chapters, 16 maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, I had fun with that first chapter. I haven't read anything past it, but it was a good start.
Yeah, good series. Again, classic classic non-isekai fantasy on the rise. You may think isekai is big, but Frieren is the #1 show on my anime list. So that proves that isekai sucks.
That is what that means.
Yeah,
True.
exactly. But yeah, I've been reading that. Not a lot to say about it other than a good first chapter. I like the art in it a lot. I like the character design in it a lot. It's good.
Yeah, dude, I have to. Speaking of like good fantasy series, I got to bring that Bugle thing one of these days.
Oh, you've told me about that.
I told you about the Bugler. It's the wartime Bugler manga. It's a good one, man.
I think you did.
Yeah.
So
he plays a bugle. He just plays a bugle at war. I'll bring it one of these days. Anyway.
Yeah, you did bring it up and tell me about it because I remember like looking at it or seeing it. Maybe I added it to my plan to read or something. But
it's a fun one. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's it. Unless you got anything else.
Nope. That's it.
Cool. Hey, thanks again for listening or watching, everyone. Don't forget to leave us feedback, comments, upvote, thumbs up, Apple Podcast reviews. Follow us on Spotify. Subscribe. Like, all that jazz. Check out Twitter and Patreon, linked in the description. Thank you for being with us yet again this week.
Bye.
And don't forget to read more manga.